So we're a company we do injection molding and blow molding of plastic. That's our business. We're located in 8 different states throughout the U.S. Plus we have a facility in the UK and one in Mexico, and approximately 1,100 U.S. employees full-time. Demographics-wise, the one thing I didn't do is do a good job of checking those numbers out. But I can tell you in a couple of areas for us, the real concern for us from the standpoint of the aging population and mature population for us is going to be in the professional, technical, and leadership roles. That's really where it's going to have a major impact on us. And in fact, in our tool making area, our population there is probably 80% over 60. And it's a real area of concern for us, and we started recognizing that and really working on our own. Plus, we're also working with a consortium to try to develop something for the Baraboo area, along with Teal and maybe some other companies, to develop a technical training for tool making and for because that is an issue for all of us, that aging population that has that strong tooling background. They're willing to get their hands dirty and work hard. And we just haven't been able to find good replacements at this point in time, so we're going to grow our own. And that's really the whole mentality, as you mentioned. People aren't willing to move. We found that with engineers also. And as we're losing engineers, again, whether through maturity or just loss of moving on to someplace else, we have had a difficult time hiring seasoned engineers. And so one of the things we've done is just developed what we call our engineering and training program. And we go to college recruiting every year, at least twice a year, to a couple of universities. And we're bringing people in and putting them through a 12-month program, teaching them our business. And our whole plan is that they will be the people who will take over the leadership roles eventually in our company, because we think engineering, because of the business we're in, is a great background. And so that's becoming the leap or the jumping board, or whatever the jumping point into leadership is going to be from an engineering role. So we're starting now already, because we look out, of course, and seeing that our population is aging and that that's an issue. And one of the neat things we've been able to do is we took a gentleman who was really kind of he had done operations, he had been an engineering manager, and he's in his 70s now, and you'd never know it. But we were able to take him as we developed this EIT program. We said, Chuck, would you be willing to help us develop courses with your knowledge in blow molding and injection molding? Help us develop courses that we can teach the young individuals in our company who are coming up. And he was excited. Talk about someone who got new life. And he's been helping us develop those courses and teach them. And in fact, he's even going out on sales calls and teaching our customers about our business and getting rave reviews. And so Chuck's in his glory, having a great time in that. So that's a really good, I think, example where we, as you used the term, I think, re-careered him into a different role. And that's just growing. We're also doing, as a part of our continuing struggle to hire people, we're developing our own. So we're also starting something called the University of Flambeau. And we have our own internal courses, and it's beyond just the production courses. It's about leadership and all the different things. And what we're doing is we're using the mature workers, again, to develop those courses and to teach those courses. And so that's been about a year that we've had that program going, and that's gone over extremely well. There's another individual, as he was telling us he was going to retire in a couple of years. And he was one of our production managers in our blow molding in Baraboo. Critical job for us. We then said, okay, thank you for the notice, Dave, we'll work with you. We were able to get another gentleman through a training program in a year's process. We took a 12-month process, set out the timeline. Instead of a program where he would get the training he needed, he spent time with Dave mentoring for 6 months, and then we transitioned him into the full-time role and took Dave and just kind of used him in different positions at the time that were available, because he wasn't ready to retire fully. Then our engineering role became available, and we put him in engineering, even though, again, he was more of an operations guy, but again, very strong in organizational skills, helped develop that until we were able to replace that position. He's now going into the tool room to do the same thing until we can hire someone in that role. And after that, we just met 2 weeks ago. He'd like to work part-time and just work on special projects. And we said, great, that's great, because he'll be turning 65 this fall. And he just wants to transition, but he doesn't want to quit working. he's enjoying it too much and having too much fun. But I think his wife is telling him he has to slow down. And the other thing I think is really interesting is, our founder, we've been in business 65 years, and our founder still comes to work every day. He's 85. And so he set the example for people that you can continue to work. I don't think he's going to retire. I think that's his work is his life, and he just enjoys it. But one of the things we've done to kind of capture the culture and the history, as was mentioned on the screen from previous discussion, we're videotaping him and having him tell us about his history. What did he do? How did he start the company? Why did he do this? What's his management philosophy? And capturing that culture and history, and we share that with the new employees to kind of keep that going. So that's a very important part of our whole process. And then as far as some of the benefits that we're doing, we started an on-site clinic in January in Baraboo for our employees. And so retired employees get to use that clinic free, and that's a real benefit for them. So as they retire, their health care basically, as far as at least other than major medical, of course, is free through the clinic. And that's one of the ways that we've been able to keep people and entice them to stay on. We have a quarter-century club. I wish I knew the statistics. Sorry, I don't. But our quarter-century club, we probably have, I bet 25% of our population has 25 years or more with us. We have several of them that have 45 and 50. So longevity is there, and it's been really nice to see. And they do help provide that direction to the younger workforce. And I can tell you, as someone I'm 58, I sure don't feel like it. And when I look through my eyes, I still kind of remember and feel like I'm in my 30s. And the interesting story for you is that I recently went to the dentist, a new dentist, and I'm sitting in the lobby, and I'm reading his certificate, right? They all have them hanging in the lobby so you can see that they really are a dentist and certified. I'm looking at the name and I'm thinking, I graduated from high school with a guy with that same name. And he was this tall, young, athletic, good-looking guy. And I thought, could it be? And I thought, no. So while I'm in the chair, I'm looking up at this guy and I'm thinking, no, it can't be him. He's got wrinkles, he's got gray hair, he's balding. He looks way too old to be in my class. But curiosity got the best of me, so I asked him when I was all done, where did you graduate from? And he said, Melrose, Minnesota. I said, you're kidding. What year? He said, 1973. I said, oh my gosh, you were in my class. And he looked at me and he said, really? What subject did you teach? So you see, it's all perspective, right? I mean, so... Yeah, I'm an old guy, I guess. So, think of that as you think of the older worker and the mature worker. For those of you younger, there's a lot of life in us. And, we just don't see ourselves as getting that old, and we see a lot of things that we can offer and do. So I'm doing that with my staff. I have a younger staff. I have 3 people that are in my office in Baraboo. And so I'm constantly trying to work with them and mentor them, talk to them about experiences. When we have a decision to make, I say, well, how would you think through this? And then I share how I would. And it's just going to be a continuing for however long I work, next 10 or 15 years or however. I'm going to continue to mentor them and bring them along. And I think that's an important part of the process that we're trying to get at Flambeau, is the mentoring and really teaching, again, the younger from the mature standpoint.
Do you have criteria for the clinic access for those that retire? Do they have to work so many years?
At this point we don't. We just started the clinic in January.
So it's a private clinic just for yours?
Yes, just for our employees, right. And so at this point in time, no. It's open to all employees and their covered dependents. So it's available to them.
And how many employees locally do you have?
We have 500 in Baraboo.
Same question that I asked Connie about computerized equipment. Do you have the same problems with your seasoned workers leaving and the younger ones, or the younger ones coming in, leaving and having a seasoned worker pick up that computerized?
Yeah, I mean, we're challenged with our mature employees to deal with the computers, there's no doubt. But, you know, we try to pick those that have that, seem to have that ability and capability, and we use those on those different roles. And we'll, you know, work with them continually to try to make sure that they're comfortable with it.
Because that's the biggest, that's one of the largest hurdles that we deal with, is the seasoned worker doesn't feel comfortable using a computer system. So,
But I do know my father-in-law is 80, he'll be 88 this fall. He had a smartphone before I did. And he does very well with it. He does computer training online. So I know it can be done. It's really a matter of your mind and really working on it. And so convincing the mature workforce that they can do it and just helping them along the way. Maybe even writing notes for him. I know that for him, we do write notes on how to get online, but once he's on, man, look out. So
Another interesting point on the health side for your employees that are coming up in the mature age range, if you will, is my business is also tied to healthcare and assisted living specifically, and we specialize a lot in dementia care for residents. And there's been a lot of studies that if you continue working longer in some capacity, you will slow down the progression of Alzheimer's and other related dementia. So using your mind and challenging in different ways. I have a partner in my business who is in her early 60s, and she's the owner of the assisted living side of the business too that we're connected with. But she'll do simple things, just like switch up her mouse, you know, and change which button you have to click, which could be really challenging when because we get so used to our habits. But if you think of small things like that, where she makes the right clicking button, your regular button, you know, little things, but she will purposely do things to shift up how her brain has to think so we don't get into so much habits. So I think it's wonderful. You know, all we have to do is just put the question out there, are you interested in learning? You know, would you be willing to learn some new skills? And there's so many of my grandma too, in her 80s, she's on eBay all the time, you know, and putting up auctions and uploading pictures. That all requires skill in learning how to maneuver around on the computer, but we can definitely learn it, and I think a lot of us would enjoy that if we're given the opportunity. And I love the fact that you're using your employees to teach and honor that knowledge, if you will, to share. I wanted to ask you, what has been the feedback since you've been doing more training internally and gearing up courses? What's the feedback from your employees?
well, again, they really value, especially Chuck, and his knowledge and the years of experience that he has. And like I said, the young engineers that are going through it, it was really originally set up just for them. We had seasoned engineers who had been with us for 15 and 20 years saying, can we take the class? Because of what they've been hearing about the class, and they come away with a really new understanding of the process that they didn't know before. So it's becoming a very valued item within the company, and the training has gone very well. So when we have a class and offer it, it usually gets filled pretty quickly. And we have the salespeople coming in from the field to take the courses also to help sharpen their skills. So it's gone over very well.